Hey guys, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. So all week long, I was engraving tracking wheels, other wheels on my 1x30s and my 2x42. I shot a ton of video of how to do it. I did it with the first two sets that I did it with a rotary tool for my X tool laser. And then when I got to my 2x42, the other day, which was towards the end of the week, I saw a video on how to engrave on cylindrical objects. So, like a tumbler without having to use a rotary tool. And I was like, wow, I have to try this for what we're trying to do here, which is just increase the surface tension of these wheels method here. And I did it for the 2x42 and it was so easy. I don't feel right even putting out the other content because this was so much faster than what I did with these two. And I have a bunch of video shot that I'm not even going to bother showing you guys because the video that I did for this is so easy, so fast, and worked really well. And it will definitely work for these other two machines. So I'm going to show you that. I did it in LightBurn. You could easily translate what I did into XCS, Xtool software, anything else out there. Laser Pecker has their own software. Like what I did here was not complicated. You'll see that, but it will definitely improve the running of your machines. Every one of these machines is running great right now. I've been able to remove the Wen wheels. I've been able to remove Cliff Curry's tracking wheel off of my original 1x30, and you can definitely do the same thing. So here's the video. If you have a laser engraver, this might be something you want to check out. And I also believe if you have a 2-watt laser engraver, that this will work for you as well. So you don't have to have a fiber. I engraved many knives with a 2-watt IR, and I think the only difference will be it's going to take you a longer time to do the engraving. But other than that, it should work for you. All right, I will get going with the video and let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can improve the performance of your 2x42 or 1x30 by etching a pattern into your tracking wheel and your other wheels on your grinder to give you more consistent belt control. So if you have a problem with one of these with a sloppy belt kind of sliding around, here's a way that you can fix it if you own a laser. And I'm going to show you on my brand new Commarker B6 how I'm going to put a pattern into this very smooth wheel to give it more surface tension, which will keep my belts from sliding around on me. And this is a super easy fix. And all you need is the Commarker B6. You're not even going to need a rotary tool or anything else. I'm going to show you a simple, easy, fast way to do this. And it's really cool. We're going to do it in LightBurn. Let's get started. The very first thing we have to do in LightBurn is create whatever type of shape it is that you want to etch onto that wheel. I'm going to go with a simple little diamond pattern that has worked very well for me, but I'm going to show you how I made it because this is one of those areas where I've talked to you before about how there's certain software that's really user-friendly, like XCS software for Xtool lasers, I find very user-friendly. This is one of the examples of like a, I don't want to call it a quirk, but what you're dealing with in LightBurn, where things can be a little bit more difficult to find, or once you know where they're at, they're not difficult. This is a perfect example. So if you look over here on your shapes, you may not notice it until you go to make a shape. They give you a square, they give you a circle, they give you a polygon, and then they give you a tool where you can like build a shape. But nowhere in here is there a triangle. You know, there's there's just some shapes that are kind of missing. And if you're in XCS software, when you click on a shape, they give you all kinds of shapes to choose from: squares, rectangles, triangles, little diamond patterns. It doesn't mean that LightBurn can't do it. It's just a little bit different. Here's how I did it. And let me just preference this also by saying, again, I am not a LightBurn expert at all. I am very much a novice when it comes to LightBurn. I am still learning this program. I am much better with Xtool, XCS software, but I'm getting there. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Just keep in mind, there may be a better way to do this or an easier way. I didn't find this to be difficult, but here's how it goes. All right. So if you press on a shape and you hold your shift key and drag on your work area, it will draw a perfect shape for you. Just for example, if I'm gonna hold my shift key down, let's say I wanna do a perfect circle, I hold the shift key and drag it, and that gives me a perfect circle. Then I can come up here and change the sizes. Now, if you don't hold the shift key and you do it, you'll see how I can adjust that shape and it's not a perfect circle. So holding the shift key is important because it gives you that perfect shape that you're looking for. So how do we do a diamond pattern? We don't have any diamonds up here, and this is where it's a little bit tricky. So what you have to do is you have to come to this one here, which is this a polygon, a pentagon? I'm sorry, I'm not up on my geometry. Yeah, this is a polygon. One left side would be a pentagon. But here's what you do. So go to the polygon tool, hold your shift down, and just draw out a polygon. If you select it, so we're gonna use our pointer tool and it's selected. If you look over here on the right-hand side of the screen where I'm kind of moving my mouse, look what we got here. We have a little thing that says shape properties. And if we click on that, it will give us this little screen here. And you'll see it has power scale, locked, width, height, and sides. So if we drop the number of sides to 5, there we have a perfect pentagon. Now, if we drop it again to 4, now we have a perfect square. And if we drop it one more time, there's our triangle. So that's how I go about getting a triangle. Is there a better way? There might be, but this is what has worked for me. So to make my little diamond pattern up here that you see that I want to etch onto my wheel, what I simply did was I took this pattern here and I copied it, I pasted it. So now I had 2, and then up top here, you have some interesting tools, and one of them is a mirror tool. So if you click this, it mirrors the other shape. So you'll see it now flipped it around. Now I have 2 triangles that are opposite of each other. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in on my screen here a little bit so we can get nice and close to my triangles here. And I'm gonna bring these 2 together. And it's okay if they overlap, because I think that actually works a little bit better, like that. And then what I did was I selected both of these, and over here you have a bunch of what they call Boolean tools. And one of them is weld selected shapes together. And if you see, when I click this, it took out the middle part and just made it a welded little diamond shape. And that's how I made my diamond. Now, if you look super close, yeah, there's a little like notch here. They may not be absolutely perfect diamonds. That can probably be corrected. I wasn't really concerned with it because this is going to be a really small size in the end. So I'm just going to start shrinking this down, and I'm going to go to about 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters high. And then what I did was the next step, I'm going to back this out a little bit so you can see it. The next thing I did was I went to this tool right here. So this is an array tool. And if you click it, you'll see I can build an array. And what I did was I started adding columns to my array and rows. And that is how I built my pattern. Now, if you adjust the spacing, and if I take this down to 0, it's going to take out the space that's between these. So watch this. I just go boom, 0 space there on the X side, 0 space on the Y. And that is how I made this pattern up here. And you can see it's giving me my total width and total height. And I knew the dimensions of my wheel, and that's how I built the shape that's right above here. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this out, but now you saw how I built this. So you don't need to go to Etsy or any place and go to some graphic designer and be like, hey, I need and buy some diamond pattern. Literally just build it yourself with a couple shapes. That's all it takes. You can see it's very simple. You can click OK, and then there it is. You have your shape that you want to put on your wheel. Now, like I said, I already built one up here for the speed and to get through this video quicker. We'll use the one that I built, but I just wanted to show you how I did that. We will now, I'm now going to just delete this one down here. Okay, so now that you know how to build the array shape that we're going to do the engraving, I next want to show you how we're going to set it up in the software to engrave this, because we're doing this with no rotary tool. We're assuming you don't own a rotary tool, but you want to engrave this cylinder. So how do we do that? We're going to come up top here to this little section, which is for your rotary tool. And this is a really cool feature. And this is a cylinder engraving. So you'll see here, I have a cylinder. And depending on which way I have my cylinder set up, I can engrave it on the X axis or the Y axis. This is going to be a Y axis setup for us, because you saw how I had my wheel laying, and it's laying this way. So I would select the Y axis, and we're doing a convex cylinder. So it's not concave like the inside of a bowl, but you could do a similar type of thing with this software using that. So the first thing we have to do, though, is enable cylinder correction. We're going to turn this on. Our object's diameter, we need to measure that. So I already measured the diameter of my wheel. So what we have to do here is we have to enter our diameter of our cylinder. And remember, diameter is the measurement across the cylinder. So the longest point of the circle to the other longest point of that particular circle. This can be easily done with a set of calipers or with a tape measure, depending, on what you have available. I've always found calipers work really well for this. What I'm going to do is I enter that number into the object's diameter. And the diameter of this wheel is 40 millimeters. So what this does is it is going to compensate for curvature to keep our engraving looking correct on that curved cylinder. You'll also notice up here, you'll see a little green light, which shows that I have this turned on. If you want to see that feature, if you don't see that, if you want to know whether that's turned on or off, I like to know that it is. You can simply go to the gears, click the gears, and one of the things in display is show rotary enabled on main window. If you have this turned on, it will always show you if your rotary or a cylinder engraving is active and turned on. Now that we have that turned on, it's going to compensate for this engraving on that cylinder. I'm going to come back to my cuts and layers. I want to make sure everything is turned on. This is my output. And I'm going to show you a preview, and it's showing me what that's going to look like and how much time it's going to take. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit frame. My laser's now on. I'm going to hit frame. I'm going to use the boundary, but you'll see that this will give me a box where I can now place that on my wheel cylinder where I'm going to start my engraving. If you look at the top of the cylinder, you see a red line going around. That's the boundary box. It's showing me where the laser is going to engrave. And I tried to keep this absolutely as simple as possible. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to physically turn my wheel after it completes each little section. And I'm just going to go all the way around till it matches up with the other side. So you can see right now it is starting to etch the little pattern into this wheel. It's actually doing 2 passes every time it goes around. And I'll give you a little bit of a zoom in here so you can see it better. Okay, so now that it ended, all I am doing is physically turning the wheel myself and lining up that bounding box right where the last one ended. And then I'm just going to simply hit start again and go all the way around the wheel. Okay, so I'm just gonna hand screw this back in and then tighten it with my wrench, and then we will test out these newly etched wheels on my Grizzly 2x42. It has worked so well on my 1x30s that I decided to do all of my machines. Now this one, as I showed in the beginning here, I used to have to keep some electrical tape on my drive wheel, and that will work. You know, if you're having some tracking issues, you can wrap a little bit of electrical tape around your tracking wheel, and you know, it doesn't need a lot. A couple times around, use a good tape because you might want to take it off. And I was happy I used a pretty good electrical tape. When I took it off, it didn't have a bunch of residue or anything stuck to it. You know, that part of it went real well. But that was working just fine. You know, I had no tracking issues after I put that electrical tape on. I figured this would be just, you know, an all-around better fix. And it has proven so far to be the case. All right, so I got that tightened up. Here is a Cubitron belt. These feel real good. All right, so let's put this Cubitron belt on and see if we can track now, and with no more issues, no slippage. If we can run it off the sides of our platen the way that we like to, for hitting the edges of knives without having to use electrical tape anymore. All right, so we're tracking good. I'm going to the right a little, adjusting. That looks good. Let's bring it up to speed. That looks nice and stable. Let's try going a little bit off platen left and right. I can only go so far left side because of this piece, but right side I can go a pretty good ways off. And that's good. So a lot of times before I fixed this, and when I didn't have the tape, if I tried to go right like this and be partly off to hit an edge on a knife, the belt would just keep going and go right off the machine. And you can see now it's able to track and stay wherever I want it on the machine. All right, let's come back the other way. Let's see how far we can come left. And that's doing really well there. That's the max I can come this direction before the belt would hit up top. All right, hopefully you could hear me over all that noise. This is a noisier machine than my 1x30s, but that looks great. So I'm really excited about that. So we got our little bit of added surface tension. These wheels are good to go. So let's see if we can, I'll let you know, I'll give you any updates on it. I think it's going to be totally fine. As I said, I've been running both of my 1x30s this way. I etched all these wheels, and the only ones I haven't done, I mentioned before, I haven't bothered etching drive wheels. I'm going to leave them smooth. And on my 1x30, I haven't taken the tape off of this drive wheel, but they're all running great. There it is. That's how to do a quick engraving on your 1x30 or 2x42 wheels to improve their performance.